Art Spark Texas, sparking the creative in everyone. Art Spark Texas Veterans presents Voices in Verse Writers Conference in partnership with the Rio Grande Valley International Poetry Festival. Sponsored by El Zarape Press, Texas Commission on the Arts, and the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. Our fourth presentation is by Andrea Vocab Sanderson, 2020 to 2023 San Antonio, Texas Poet Laureate. She presents We Want to Bubble. It's introduced by Daniel Garcia Ordaz.
Just do a quick, intro for Andrea Vocab Sanderson, the 2020/2023 San Antonio Texas Poet Laureate. Singer, songwriter, poet, awesomeness. So, Andrea, please take it away.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be with you. I joined you for a few minutes of what Emmy was presenting. It's a pleasure to be in the presence of the Texas Poet Laureate. Again, woman, you're so inspirational. You're brilliant, and you have such a gentle spirit, but in that gentleness is so much power and beauty. So I'm always honored to be around you and coming after you. What is that about? Who does that? I don't know why y'all doing this, but hey, I'm glad I think it's cool to wrap. I like wrap up the day energy. So I'm going to ask you all, if you want to stand, feel free to stand. If you cannot stand, you can sit for this. I'm going to stay seated only because you kind of need to see my movements, because I do something called the Pledge of Respect. So if you want to start the slideshow that I sent, and I guess put me off in the corner, put baby in the corner, I can show you the movements. It's a call and response. So I'll say something and you'll just repeat the line. And it starts with the self body hug. So this is called the Pledge of Respect. And I do this, I don't care if you in my workshop and you 7 years old or you 70 years old, I do the Pledge of Respect when I do workshops. So self body hug and repeat after me. I respect my body.
Respect my body.
And the bodies of others.
And the bodies
of others.
I respect my thoughts.
I respect my thoughts.
And the thoughts of others.
And the thoughts of others.
I respect my art.
I respect my art.
And the art of others.
And the art of others.
So that is a pledge that I got from a very good friend of mine named Selena Gonzalez. She teaches with me. And as we come into the space, you've been in this space all day. So you're already in this mindset that this together is a shared space where we are protecting our own energy and protecting the energy of our partners and peers and the people here, that we're not going to self-deprecate and tear ourselves down. And for the most part, I can respect other people's thoughts, unless it's like Donald Trump. I can't respect his thoughts at all. But, like for the most part, like I'm really respectful that you are entitled to your thoughts and they are wonderful to you. And my thoughts are wonderful to me. And sometimes my thoughts suck, but in this space, I'm going to be respectful of it and my own body and your body. It's a lot easier to be respectful of other people's body in a virtual space because you can't touch them. But usually when I'm in workshops, people, they like sometimes especially when they're sharing materials, they're like, oh, I need those scissors. I'm just going to reach all over you, all around you, all up in your space. I'm going to take that because I need that. But it's just a reminder to self, and I think it's a cool pledge. We can go to the next slide. I'm going to start off with a little bit of performance for you all, and then I'm going to go into this. This was part of one of Emmy's, one of her quick writes that she gave at the end. We'll go into that in just a minute, but I'm going to do a performance for you. So you can cut off the slideshow actually, and I'll try not to have you go back and forth with that a lot. April, I appreciate what you're doing. So if y'all haven't given April her kudos for all of the things she's been doing all day, let's stop and give her some love. Because it's not easy to proctor Zoom sessions. It's not, you know what I'm saying? I don't even do it. I'd be like, can somebody else do that, please? All right, so I'm gonna do a couple of poems. One of them Daniel shared with you that I performed. This poem is called Wind Song, and it's on one of my albums. I might just sing, I might just sing and skip the poem altogether, or I might do all of it. It takes a while, but we got a while. We got like till 3:45. So I might do the whole thing. because we're going to be together for a little bit. And I'm sure y'all been writing all day, so y'all probably are happy to take a break from the writing part. And then I'm going to go into another piece. But I was blessed to be able to go to write about now in Houston, Texas, and get with Amir Safi and those poets out there. And I took this piece called Wind Song, but I think I'll sing a little bit of the song and go into the poem. They tried to clip my wings, but I'm still flying high, high, high up in the sky, yeah, yeah. Say I'm still flying high, high, high. They tried to bring me down, down, but I'm still flying high, high, high up in the sky, yeah, yeah. Say I'm still flying high, high up in the air. And when I take flight, gravity can't hold me, no, up in the air. It's just the cloud under my toes, up in the air. I'm soaring as the breeze blows, up in the air. Way up there I am, up in the air. They tried to clip my wings, but I managed to keep on flying, and I cried when I spread my wings. But the wind kept me from falling, plus my determination was undying. The air beckoned me, calling out like a jury summons. And I mean, I had my doubts, but after crawling to the ledge of my existence, I decided stalling would get me nowhere, because death in search of success is better than failure in life, completely unaware of capabilities for lack of agility, or should I say, failure to take initiative initially. So I became proactive in my quest to live, seeking to give back what was bestowed. I mean, I did what was in my soul and my spirit. I stood amid the buyers and bid for my destiny, watched some purchase of faith and handle it recklessly. And I admit that I was careless and did it too, but I had an epiphany some way halfway through it all. And that's why I stand here now in front of y'all, a mockingbird with words, melting from the candlelight that ignites my passion. And I am prepared to set 1,000 to flight, fashioned to fight for God's plight and never bite my tongue. A vessel I now come forth, pouring out the liquid of my experience. May it run its course through the veins of your heart, traveling as a sojourner, irrigating, caught up in the trains of your thoughts. And this motivation is something you ought to have. Never let fear grab your dreams, keep you from transferring them, deferring them like Langston said, but rather nurturing them until they are bred, fed with positivity. See, I have learned what you believe to be true will make itself a reality, manifesting itself right in front of you, evolving from the words you speak, the thoughts you think, and the company that you keep, because you can't accept everyone's critique, and don't let anyone brush your future bleak. When rejected, rise and shake the dust from your feet. Focus on the whole puzzle instead of an individual piece, and someday your vision will be complete. God give us substance our minds can eat. Because lately, I don't have the energy to compete in this rat race where people discriminate against me in my face, telling me what I can't do, weighing my talent to see who I measure up to, disapproving of the moves I've made, waiting to debate me with no legitimate reason to hate me, so judgmental and berating, constantly demonstrating demonic tendencies with phonic negativity. They be my chronic enemies, caustically offending, sometimes fakely befriending, but always verbally clipping at my wings, not allowing me the freedom to fly, and muting my voice so I cannot sing. Oh Lord, I now bring severed, tapered feathers for your healing, extending them while stepping off the edge. Your wind song summons me to release hurt and step off the edge. My flight is now a soaring melody in harmony with my destiny. I now commit my poetry, for you are the voice that was calling. So though I cried when I spread my wings, God, it was you that kept me from falling. Thank you for keeping us from falling. That's that piece. So I'm going to do one more piece for you guys. Thank you very much. I feel it in my heart today. I feel so eager to connect to you all, and just it's a blessing to be among my peers. I love poets. I love me some poets and some writers. And to me, when we come to spaces when we can gather together, that's like the time that I cherish the most. Besides, being with my family, like you are my family to me in my mind, whether I've known you or whether I don't know you. If we're writers, we're family, and we in this thing together. So I'm going to do one more piece, and this piece is definitely what I structured this whole workshop around, because the workshop is entitled "We Want to Bubble." And it's like it's this idea of there are times in life where we are called to isolate ourselves in a bubble, and there are times when we need to bust that bubble and come out and let that, because I mean, a bubble is just like it's air that's trapped inside of this liquid shell, right? And it's the most fragile thing, right? But you can protect it and preserve it. And then there's times where you have to pop it and you come out. But what's trapped inside of that bubble is some potential. It's breath, it's air, it's life. But bubbles are like, bubbles fascinate you. I don't care if you're 2 years old, you're 28 years old, you're 55, 79. If you see a bubble, you're like, oh, bubble. You just have that whole moment, right? So, but we're gonna get into that in a minute. Anyways, I structured this workshop, and it's kind of like, why talk about bubbles? But I'm telling you, when you're a poet, you can turn anything into gold. So I was like, I'm gonna just do a whole workshop about bubbles, and it's gonna be great. So this piece is called "We Want to Bubble." Let me take one more sip of water. Good Lord. I'm doing too much, but I'm excited. Y'all excite me. So I'd rather have somebody be excitable and excited than be like, and now, ladies and gentlemen. So we want to bubble. Here we go. Y'all can sing along. There's some da-das, and then you can repeat the da-das, or you can not, whatever you want to do. It's fun. But if you feel like snapping along with me, feel free to bop and snap along. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. I forgot the song. Here we go. All right. We want to bubble. We want to shine like every day. Some of us hustle, and some of us have no time to play. We stay in the rubble. This peril and trouble where we lay. We rep the struggle. But there's got to be a better way. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. You want to bubble like baking soda vinegar in a cut. Want to bubble like indigestion that churns in your guts. But what about ruts and pitfalls up in your way, baby? It's so pitiful when you stuck on delay and you stuck on replay of all your past mistakes, and you want to succeed, but you don't know what path to take. You can't seem to shake destructive traits. Bred in your DNA, you mumble, mute, depressed, but really don't know what to say. The grief ain't never brief when you sway. In the valley of decision, and your vision starts to fade, and you fall prey to procrastination, lay idle, latently stay slay, moment after moment, but there's no time to play, and there's no time to fray, and there's no time to stray, and there's no time to wait, because destiny is today. So bubble, baby, bubble, yo, whatever come what may. I say bubble, baby, bubble, We want to bubble. We want to shine like every day. Some of us hustle, and some of us have no time to play. We stay in the rubble. There's peril and trouble where we lay. We rap the struggle. But there's got to be a better way. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Yeah. All right, that's that piece. So I'm ready to jump into this workshop. April, you can go back to those slides. So I know Emmy had you guys do this already, or had everyone do this already, but you can do a list poem instead of like, I don't know, find a different way. If you chose to do this earlier with her, find a different form to take it on to. I feel like list poems, they sometimes stress me out, but they are like, they should be simple, right? I think as poets, we definitely overthink a list poem. But I like to start off with radical gratitude. I'm not much into there's some ideas that make us think about I guess this idea of your vibration being at its highest when you're grateful, and whether you ascribe to those types of philosophies. I think it's true, like good things come to you when you're in a state of mind, or you can see clearer now the rain is gone. You can see like the sunshine. You can see the beauty of life when you're in a posture of gratefulness, when you're a posture of gratitude, versus dwelling on the negative things in life. So if we could just take a minute to write a list poem of things that we're grateful for. I know one of the things I'm grateful for is this moment where I'm surrounded by my peers, and we're here workshopping together. That's dope. So if y'all want to take some time and just do that. And so let's go and let's talk about these bubbles, y'all. Let's talk about the definition of bubbles. Not that you can't see it, but it's there, and I'm going to read it to you. What is a bubble? There's bubbles, and there's 3 types of bubbles we're going to talk about. I like for you to keep this in mind, because you're going to use all of this. Just start storing little nuggets in your brain, or, you know, we're going to use this for our writing when we get to the writing. It's a noun, a thin or small body of gas inflated into a liquid. So something as simple as thinking about getting some bubble solution, taking the wand, putting it to your mouth and blowing. When you look at the wand, there's that little circle and you see the film of soap, and you blow into that liquid film of soap, and it encloses around the air that you blew in and makes a bubble. And then those bubbles just start flying off the wand, right? So that's one definition of bubble. Verb, to become lively or effervescent. I feel like I'm in a bubbly mood today, and just the energy of being here brought alive something in me, and it made my energy bubble to the surface. Lively or effervescent. Sometimes I tell people they're effervescent, and usually that's like a compliment that people don't normally get. So they kind of look at me like, really? And I'm like, yes, you're effervescent. And I'm like a Topo Chico. And then they laugh, and then we move on. All right. Noun, an enclosed or isolated sphere of experience or activity in which the like-minded members of a homogeneous community support and reinforce their shared opinions. So here in this workshop, we're in a bubble. We're in our own bubble. We're in a writing bubble, because we're all writers and we're here together. So we're just a collective of people that have gathered together in our space, and we're doing what we do, right? And I talked about this earlier, like when I was getting started, but also sometimes your bubble is just you. It's you, the singular person, but you have air and breath and life in your body. So you're holding that air and that breath inside of you as a living human being, and you are a bubble in your own space. Woo-hoo. Okay, so let's keep going. So how do we produce bubbles? There's several ways to produce bubbles, and they have a little asterisk next to them. One is taking some water, putting it in a pot, and bringing it to a boiling point. It starts to create bubbles. I don't know how that stuff works, because I'm not the scientist, but you know, Bill Nye explained it or something. I don't know. Anyways, 2 chemicals coming together, such as liquid and gas. Sometimes, you know, you can put 2 liquids together and bubbles will come out of the situation, kind of like dishwashing liquid, which is the next one. But I think of oil and water. Sometimes when you pour oil into water, you see bubbles in it. I don't know if any of y'all have ever done that. I'm pretty sure even in washing dishes, you've probably done that. You've taken a greasy plate and put it in to the water, and you see little bubbles come up, oil bubbles, right? And there's just like 2 things that are trying to cohabitate, but don't necessarily really go together. And so that little air pocket is produced. How does it happen? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not here for that. I'm just saying it happens. All right, blowing bubbles. Like I mentioned earlier, when you take a bubble wand and you blow a bubble. So these are different ways you can make bubbles. I want you to look. Why did I put this in here? Even though you're like, duh, Drea, I know this. Check it out. You can use this when you get to your writing. So just remember these ways you can produce bubbles. And I'm telling you, there's a metaphor in here somewhere in this list that I've made. There's a metaphor for you right there. All right, next page. All right, so let's do some bubble facts. Some of these you might not consider facts, but they're just like little nuggets. Again, you can use these when you get to your writing. That's why I'm presenting it to you. Bubble fact numero uno. For the bubble to be stable and not collapse, the pressure inside the bubble must be higher than the pressure on the outside. That's a whole poem, just that one bubble fact. There are outside pressures that are upon us, and then there's the air, the breath inside the bubble. And the bubble pressure inside has to be higher than the pressure outside. So your will, your determination, if you put this in the context of you and yourself, your will, your determination, your drive has to be higher than the pressures that are put on you. A lot of times people ask me what motivates me to do the things that I do in community. It's because the pressure, the passion, the drive inside of me is greater than the fear that's the outside force. In thinking of this workshop, I thought about how sometimes we have to go into our bubble to create, to protect ourselves. There's so many different reasons why we go into the bubble. Sometimes we're sad and that's why we go into the bubble. Sometimes we just trying to keep our sanity, so we go into the bubble, right? For all the reasons that we go inside our bubble, the pressure on the inside, not pressure like necessarily in a negative sense, but like that force, that will, that the one that Michael Jackson and Star Wars talk about, I guess, that force has to be stronger than the forces that are acting upon you. And sometimes the force that we think is acting upon us is all in our mind. Sometimes the pressure we're putting on ourselves is all in our mind. Other people are not really pressuring you. You just think they are. Or there's these expectations that you think are there and they're not really there. Stuff to think about. Bubble fact number 2. When there are no more investors, and this is regarding economics and the economy and money and stuff, but I thought it was dope. When there are no more investors willing to pay the overinflated price, people panic and sell and the bubble bursts. Sometimes too much air is put into this bubble because of whatever these things are, and then it bursts. Is there any really thing in there? Is the content really stable? Is it make believe, or people buying into a fantasy and an illusion? And at some point, it's all going to fall apart. Just something to think about. Bubble fact number 3. Ice is from God, y'all. Not when it's on the ground prohibiting me from going to work, but when it's in a cup, it's from God. Anyway, I can talk. Evaporation of its water content, air turbulence and dryness, contact with dry surfaces on dry air. These are things that cause bubbles to burst. So evaporation of water content, that's that thin layer of film that's on the outside. Air turbulence, like it just gets too gusty. Dryness, contact with dry surfaces and dry air. These are all things that cause your bubble to burst. There's metaphors in there. Remember that. Just store that as a nugget. All right. Back number 4, the fact number 4. I think that water messed me up. No water. All right. When you make bubbles in the sun, they evaporate quickly. That's that dryness, right? When the air is full of moisture, bubbles will seemingly last forever. So this is speaking about environments. And sometimes we need to think of this. I think when it comes to the sun, there are positive aspects to the sun and there are also negative aspects to the sun. In context of this bubble situation, it can seem as more of a negative thing, right? But I think that this speaks to environment. When we're going in our bubble, sometimes for the preservation of things, we need to be mindful of the environment that our bubble is in. And when it's moisturized in that space, oh man, that bubble's gonna last. That bubble's gonna flourish. That bubble's gonna keep floating. It's gonna keep going. And we need to be mindful to moisturize ourselves. Yes, we do need the sun and put the sun in its context for growth and things of that nature, but you also need to be moisturized. You can't be ashy, y'all. No ashy bubbles. They're gonna burst. Just saying. All right, we're done with these bubble facts. I think they were pretty cool. So now with all of that said, we can get down to the nitty-gritty of some writing. All right. What bubbles to the surface when the pressure is on? Some people do great under pressure. Some people do not do great under pressure. Some people do good under certain types of pressure. And you just got to know yourself and, know thyself and know the environment that you need to be in order for you to maintain your bubble. And then there are times when you need to pop that bubble and let yourself out. You must be free from that bubble. You must get out because it's time to start manifesting things. And y'all are writing some really good stuff in comments, and I just want to acknowledge the beautiful things that y'all have put in the comments thus far, and continue if something comes to mind and you have a little something, just like drop it in there if you want to. So I hope with all these things that I've just presented to you, that little hamster got on the wheel and started turning in your mind, and the creativity is starting to come around. What's the difference between a bubble and a box? Aha. That's a good question. And I think that's a good question for you to ask yourself, and maybe present in your writing, because there is a difference sometimes between a bubble and a box. And I think bubbles, maybe it's easier to come out of the bubble than it is to come out of the box. And when I think of bubbles, the thing I think of with bubbles is light can pass through bubbles. Sometimes things look a little distorted from the inside to the outside of the bubble, but when you're in a box, you can't see anything. It's darkness. You're enclosed in a dark space, and it's not that a box is negative per se. It's just you're completely closed in a space, and you can't see what's on the other side of the box. However, with the bubble, the surrounding area outside the bubble is, you can see through it and know what's on the other side of it. I think that's just one difference to me between a box and a bubble. All right. Next. All right. So you can use what was just said about what bubbles to the surface. And this is your option number 2. I guess can we go back one, April, for just a moment? Back. Going in another direction. Here we go. All right. So that was one writing prompt. What bubbles to the surface when the pressure is on? You can take that, and I'm going to present you with option number 2. I find that I'm always am tickled with when people choose option number 2 over option number 1. So, y'all, if you want option number 1, you remember what was just put on the screen, what bubbles to the surface. And this is option number 2. I'm going to read to you in just a second. I need to pull up something because there's something I want to say to y'all in regards to option number 2. All right. So there's that colloquialism, I hate to burst your bubble, right? And so this is what option 2 is based on. I want to read this to you. What does it mean to you? What does it mean when you hear that phrase, I hate to burst your bubble? To disprove, to ruin, to eliminate one's fantasy, delusion, misbelief, or recent happiness. So yeah, those are some things that come to mind when I hear that colloquialism, I hate to bust your bubble. I'll read it again. To disprove, ruin, or eliminate someone's fantasy, delusion, misbelief, or recent happiness. What I said a minute ago was when you're inside the bubble, sometimes, I don't know if you've ever watched a movie and they've done a lens and it's kind of like you're in a bubble and you're viewing everything on the outside. Sound is distorted. Sometimes the view is distorted. You can still see what's on the other side of that bubble, but inside of it, things are a little distorted. Things are the sound is like, woo, 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 woo. Like when you're underwater, you can see someone and hear someone when you're underwater, but your perception is slightly off because you're submerged, right? And it's kind of the similar thing when inside of a bubble. So you can choose option number 1 about things that bubble to the surface, or you can choose this, I hate to burst your bubble. And this can be a sentence starter, or it can just be kind of like the ideal behind it. And let the listener know you're not defined by the bubble they put you in or the bubble they live in, or maybe, the other stuff I said about delusion and all that good stuff. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to write. See what all has come of this? And that's why freaking writing workshops are dope, because we get in this little bubble where we're together, but we're still in our own space, and you're receiving the information that's being presented, and you're interpolating it and interpreting it just the way you want, and then boom, out on a page. Bah. Thank you. I didn't know when, and you know how this started. My homeboy, I do this, there's this app called Marco Polo, and my friend, he likes my music a lot, and one day he was doing a Marco Polo video. It's basically like a video content that you can leave for your friends, and they can click on the videos and watch them when they want to. It's a very cool app. I like to use it because I feel like I don't get to, especially during this season where we can't be in each other's presence so much. You can leave videos for people, and it's very intimate. It's not as interactive because you can't talk back and forth to the person. You just watch the video that they leave you, and then you can respond, and you can watch it real time while they're doing it, or you can watch it later, and respond at your leisure. And that's what I like about it. It's at your own pace. So he left me a Marco Polo video. He likes to perform. First of all, I must say that this is my gay friend, and he is wildly imaginative and very just theatrical. and he whenever he does his Marco Polos, he may have on sunglasses, he may have a scarf, he may wear a hat, he has some form of accessory on, and he's usually going to start out the video by voguing or doing a lip sync or singing along or letting the music play and just kind of dancing, but it's all seated, and he's holding his camera and he's just giving it, right? So he had on one of my songs, and he started, and so the camera pans down to his face, and he's just singing along to my song, and I'm giggling and getting my whole life because I think it's hilarious. And then it occurred to me, damn, I don't perform that song a lot. And then I was like, well, I don't have a chance to perform that song because we're in quarantine. So then I was like, I gotta do a writing workshop. Bubbles. Let's take that and run with it. So here we are. Yeah, I can appreciate this season too. At some point, when I get on stages, because I've had the chance to get on stages sometimes, and I'm like, I get off and I cry, and it's just emotional space. But there are times when I'm like, man, this season was so necessary because I needed it so that I could develop some things. And so this season is a season of bubble time, right? It's an incubation, it's a stealing away, and where we're in our environment that we create for ourselves. And some of us have come into our home spaces, and we're like, we need to do some renovations, and some of those renovations are spiritual and soulful. And some of those renovations are literally the building, the place in which we our abode. And so this reflection and examination is super uncomfortable, but I feel like it's very, very necessary. And then there's that season when we're afraid to come out of our bubble, but it is definitely time to pop it and step outside, or even outside of the box, however you want to see it. And I like that Joey challenged the idea of bubble bursting. And I think that's the beauty of writers. Sometimes you're given a prompt, or you're given an idea, and you flip it on its head and say, let's examine every aspect of this, or just the opposing one, that from what is the norm or the comfort or the perceived normal of it. And so I want to commend all of you for this time in this space together. I have donated a book, so hopefully that'll get raffled off somewhere in the closing time that we have together. My book is called She Lives in Music, which is kind of like, I feel like it goes with this whole idea of bubbles, because I do live in a bubble of music all the time. And this is what my cover looks like. I couldn't find my book, but I'll just show you the book cover. This is the cover. This was painted by a friend of mine named Mac Shelton, and I turned it into the cover for my CD and my book. If you want to hear my music, it's on YouTube. On the album is called She Lives in Music, and the book is entitled I'm sorry, I'm lying to you. The book is titled She Lives in Music, and my album is entitled She Tastes Like Music. And so they're like a companion project. I won a grant and I was able to do it. I'm on Flower Song Press. Shout out to the RGV and my homies. I want to thank you all for your time with us. And Daniel, if you want to put up my website is Andrea Vocab Sanderson.com, my name. You can find me, Andrea Vocab Sanderson, on Facebook, and YouTube. And if you are Instagrammer, my Instagram, I'm typing it right now, is vocabulous, like the word fabulous. I'm doing that. I can spell, Andrea. You can spell. Spelling and typing at the same time. So I keep spelling it wrong. Oh my God. I'm almost done. Almost done, guys. I'm sorry. Vocabulous. There. Thank you. So yeah, it's been my pleasure to be here with you. I hope that you got something out of this. I'm pretty sure y'all did, but if you didn't, you can send me some nasty grams on, on your own time. But I love you all. I do love you. Even if I don't know you, I love you. And feel free to stay in touch with me. And just, if you want me to follow you back, send me a little message, a DM, and say, hey, I followed you, follow me back. If you want to keep the conversation going. And thank you all. I want to say this because Emmy was talking about this earlier. Don't throw things away. Don't throw it away. And I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I have a friend named Anthony Flores. He wrote a punk rock poem called Huevos Rancheros. He threw the poem Huevos Rancheros away. He thought, this is goofy, this is corny. He wrote it in couplets. He threw the thing away. The next morning he got up, he was like, I threw that poem away last night, but you know what? I'm gonna get it out the trash can. Like he literally he crumpled it up and threw it in the trash can. He got it out of the trash can. He turned that poem into something that is one of his signature pieces. He's performed it on television, in the news, and he's turned it into a chapbook. He started selling that poem, but at first he thought it was trash and he threw it away. Don't throw anything away. Keep it, because what you wrote may not go with that thing in that moment, but it may belong in another poem, another story, another song, somewhere down the line. Sometimes we're writing and we wrote a whole thing and it's actually 2 or 3 different poems, and it just seems like a long run-on thing that goes in so many different directions. And we can learn through editing to figure out what is the statement and the purpose that and the tone that we're trying to do, because sometimes we have 2 or 3 different tones in one piece because we go through 2 or 3 different emotions when we sat down to write that. So pick a tone, know when the tone needs to shift, know when it is more than one pieces and you're trying to fit too many things into one thing. And this is stuff that you learn over time. It's not stuff that you can always discern. Sometimes you need to give that piece to another person to look at, and they can tell you, hey, this is good, but what you wrote for the beginning, that's actually not the beginning of the poem. The poem should start right here. So sometimes, and I'm guilty of that a lot. I'll write a poem and the first 3 lines don't need to be the beginning of the poem. Sometimes the first couple stanzas don't need to be the beginning, but the beginning of my poem is somewhere halfway down the page, and I just need to move stuff around. And so it's like Jenga, but don't throw things away. Keep it, hold on to it. Even if you need to type it up and put it in Google, email it to yourself, however you store your content for later purposes, keep it, hold on to it, and it may become something that you, of your wildest dreams, something that gets published, something that will bless somebody's life, bless your life, get you paid, whatever. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure to be with you all.